Hello and welcome to Knowledge by Nature. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you a flip through on learning American history through literature. So if you've been following along for very long, you know that I've been trying to find a history program that I want to use for fourth grade. And for fourth grade, I want to focus on American history. And it's been a little bit of a challenge on finding something that I think we're gonna like, but I think that I found one. So be sure and stick around if you're interested. Before we get started, I do want to let you know that Common Sense Press did send me this curriculum at no charge. As always, I'm going to give you my honest review on what I think of things, but I also wanted you to know that I was looking into this. I really liked the look of it and thought it would be a good fit for me. And that is why I actually reached out to Common Sense Press first, requesting this, and I was able to get it. So I've been on this look for American history, and like I said, I think this is going to be a really good fit. And I saw very few reviews on it, and it's hard to make a choice when you can't see anything. And so I wanted to be sure and do a flip through on this so that you can decide if this might be a good fit for your family. All right, so Learning American History Through Literature by Common Sense Press. And one of the things that I really liked about this is it uses living books. That's one of the ways I want to teach history. I'm not looking so much as a textbook or a workbook. I wanted some really cool books to read. And I tried and looked at a few different other ones, but it just really wasn't fitting exactly like I wanted. This is broken up into 7 units. So we have the colonial period, the Revolutionary War period, westward expansion, Civil War period, industrial age, World War years, and post-war years. Now, each of these, if we go into the little preface where it starts talking about this, is each of these have been divided into the 7 units, and it recommends that you spend about 5 weeks for each time period, and you will be able to finish in one school year. So if I want to do one sweep through American history, I can easily do this with this program. Or if I want to slow down, all I have to do is spend more time on each of these units, and I could make this a 2-year. And I gotta tell you, there's enough read-alouds, there is enough activities in this that I think you could stretch it out over 2 years, because I think you could easily spend more than 5 weeks on one unit. But that is just the initial ideas of how you could use this. I am not 100% sure whether I'm going to try to use it for 1 year or 2 year, but I'm going to start with the colonial period. I'm going to look at how we work with the 5 weeks, and if at the end of 5 weeks we're kind of wanting some more, we're going to keep going. So I'm not in a rush to get all the way through all 7 of these in 1 year. Something else I want to mention is that they have included books that are good for grades K through 8th, including the activities. They also include reading that are more appropriate for a smaller age, and they include some that are more appropriate for the older age. If you are dealing with a mixed age group, there's a little bit for both. So that's, I thought, a great thing for those of you that have more. Again, it says right here, if you are working with younger students and you're mostly concentrating on like those heavy things, reading and math, and you just don't have a whole lot of time to devote to history, this, it says right here, spread the course over a 2-year period. So whether you have a child that you need to slow things down for, or you just want to really dive into it deeper, this really allows you to do that. And it's a very flexible, and I am really a big fan. I haven't used it yet, but I've read through it, and I think there's just going to be a lot of great things. So let's just look at a few of these key notes again, that it can be taught with multiple grades. So this is a very good family curriculum that if you need to encompass the whole family, this is it. It can be used as a 1 or 2 year curriculum. Again, I love that. So you've got the cost and then you can spread it over 2 years, which is fantastic. And then it can be a standalone curriculum, or it can be used as a resource for any other program, which I think is pretty awesome too. It has all of these read alouds. So if you have a textbook style curriculum, but you want more read aloud options and maybe a few activities, this could be exactly what you're looking for. All right, so how is this book organized, okay? So we have the prologue, which is going to introduce the story that we're going to be covering, the unit that we're going to be introducing. We have the setting where we're talking about where this is taking place. Any language or vocabulary is going to come next that we might need to be aware of before we start, because as we know, things change over a course of years, and so some verbiage that they might have used in the colonial times, we're not using at all. Then we have the plot, which is kind of the events, the actions of the stories. Then we have a dialogue section, which is an exchange between 2 or more people. So during the reading and after the reading, you kind of have some time to discuss between yourselves what's happening, and there's also some suggested questions. Then we have reading between the lines, and then when we read a book, we're introduced to new ideas and activities. So they give an example of Black Beauty here and how you can kind of continue some different learning as far as how do you take care of a horse? Some extra activities of you might want to go to a stable, learn how to groom a horse. So I love that they have this extra additional activities for certain topics. Then we have the epilogue, which is kind of rounding out the whole reading, okay? In this section, you're going to encourage them to read some biographies of important people, research different important events and places, and take advantage of sites like YouTube and other educational videos where you can delve in just a little bit deeper. So it gives you all of these resources, and you can decide, do I want to use this or do I not want to use this? So all 7 units are set up exactly the same. So I'm going to show you the first section here, where we are learning about the colonial period through literature. So we're looking at the years of 1607 to 1763. It does say in the beginning that the years are, approximate, that it may or not be exactly this to that. But we're talking about what happened preceding the event. So we have this prologue. We're setting up our unit here. This is what's going to go on. We have the setting, and this is the information that you need to know in order to understand what comes next. So right here we see read the following books, or find other books in your local library for an overview of the colonial years. So right here we have 2 options. Both of them say grades 2 through 5, and they both are 80 pages, which is really nice. You can kind of get an idea of, okay, we can do an 80-page book in this amount of time. Then we continue over here to the language, where we're going to be talking about the vocabulary that is used in the story. All right, so we've got like a miller, a cobbler, a keeping room, all sorts of different things that we might not necessarily be using on a day-to-day basis. And this is just some vocabulary that we can study and know about when it brings up in the story. All right, next we have the plot. And so it says, depending on the amount of time you want to spend on this unit, choose from the following suggested books. You can also ask your librarian for suggestions. So I love that they're not just saying, hey, use our books. Be open to using other books. Maybe your library doesn't have that specific book. Ask them, hey, do you have something kind of in this time period that we could substitute for? It says, while older students may be assigned books to read on their own, it is recommended that you set aside some time each day to read aloud to your students. And then that way, everybody can participate, whether they are able to read the larger book or not. If you do it as a read aloud, they're able to participate. It says, next, before you read, scan through the list of activities in the reading in between lines section. So it says, take time to enjoy the activities, and that's why I want to go slow. I don't want to just rush through it and be like, oh, 5 weeks is up, we're done, when maybe there were a few more activities that we didn't get to do that we do want to do. The book has been divided into short books that can be read in 1 or 2 sittings, and chapter books. It says that older children will still enjoy shorter books, so it is suggested that you read these aloud to all your students. And honestly, I like a good short book. You kind of get in there, you enjoy it, and then you're done with it and you can move on to the next one. Not that I don't enjoy having a large book to read also. It talks about keeping those little hands busy. Don't expect your 4-year-old to just sit there and listen to this without having anything to do. Even your 6, 7, depending on how old your child is, even my 9-year-old, I think it would be good to have some of these little options for her to work on. So we have these colonial American coloring books, American fashion coloring books. There's like paper dolls. I think this would be really fun for her to work on while we are doing the lesson. This isn't necessary. It's possible you could even find a free printable for looking up a paper doll or something like that they can have while you read. All right, so you can see there are a lot of options here. Here are all the awesome book options for this first unit. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 short books, okay? Now we're looking at 40 to 32 pages, 48 to 32 pages for each book. Even reading a bunch of short books, you can see where there's plenty to spread this out for more than 5 weeks. Then we come to the chapter books, where we're looking at grades 1 through 5, 2 through 5, 3 through 7 here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 chapter books. See, there's plenty of stuff. There's plenty of resources to spread this out for 2 years if you want it. Or go through, do 1 year of kind of a breeze through where you go through some of them, and then maybe the next, so that second year you can go through it again, but choose different resources. So you have the same curriculum that you have not had to purchase twice and use it for a second year. Go through that again, and they're going to get a little bit of a different perspective every time. Most of these books, I bet you're going to be able to find in the library, which means that you're not going to have to make an additional purchase. If you're trying to decide what chapter books to do, one of the things I've been looking at is I go and I look at other popular curriculums, or I look at other blog posts where people are recommending books. I have seen The Courage of Sarah Noble all over the place. I have seen The Witch of Blackbird Pond all over the place, and I have seen The Sign of the Beaver all over the place. Those 3 books are in numerous history curriculums and many recommendations. So those 3, I'm going to be like, okay, I for sure want to cover those. And then if we have more time, I can jump to some of these others. Now, before we actually start, I may find other things and I'm like, oh, this is definitely one I want to read. For instance, this one right here, Benjamin West and His Cat Grimlican. Love the idea of this book. I think she's going to love it. So this will definitely be one that we put on our list. So read through here, decide which ones you think are the best fit for you and your family. Next, we're going to go to the dialogue where we're talking about what we've learned. So there's different little questions, little prompts that if you need it, it's there. And that's what I love so much about this is it's just kind of a little buffet of pick and choose what you like out of it. I love it. All right, reading between the lines. We are getting into some of the activities that you could do. So here, making a quill pen. You can guarantee that we are going to do this one. This is such a cool activity and something that I think she's going to love. But you know what? If that is not up your alley, there's more. So we have make homemade dip candles, make a tin can lantern, how to make a corn husk doll. And if at all possible during some of these times, go visit some of these places. If you're anywhere close to a Laura Ingalls site, We got to visit Alora Ingalls last summer, and we made these corn husk dolls. We're going to make them again in this because it's fun. But so many fun little activities. Then we're going to begin a journal. If you don't want to, don't. But here's an idea that if you do, throughout this unit, keep a journal of your activities and thoughts and write about it each day. How fun would that be at the end of this curriculum, whether you're doing 1 year or 2 year, all the fun stuff that you've done and what your experiences was with it, and maybe where did you go? I think that would be really, really fun. Then we have Learn the 13 Colonies by singing to Yankee Doodle Dandy. And then we can find a video here, which is awesome. I love the videos, the visual, it really helps. Then if you're like us and you like to throw movies in, we use electronics. We watch movies that go with books, and this is some really cool movies that they've already put, but they do put a little disclaimer here of you should preview the movie before you just watch it. It may not be appropriate for your family. Every family is different. So here's some ideas to get you started if that is something that you're interested in. But just because it's in the book doesn't mean that it's appropriate for your family. Same thing with all of the readings. Then we also have games. So we have games that would have been played during this time period. Again, I love this. You take what you want from it, leave the rest. We've got Jack Straws, we've got Marbles, Nine Men's Morris, Quoits maybe? It's a ring toss game. And then outdoor games like tag, leapfrog, hide and seek. I love this. I really, really think this is like the perfect fit for us. And just in case you wondered, is there more? Yes, there is. So we have all sorts of recipes during that time period. And then it's going to be the same through all of this. We have for every single unit, every single time frame, you're going to have all of these resources that you can choose from and decide how long you want to spend on that unit, how much you want to do. Maybe you just want it for the book readings for the most part, and maybe a few of the activities. You can do that. I feel like this is very inexpensive for what all you get. You get all these units, you get all of these resources, the games, the ideas. I don't have to do this legwork. And I did start to think, well, I'm just going to build one. I'm going to pull from everything. But then when I found this, I was like, oh, this is exactly what I'm wanting, a little buffet, and I can pull out what is going to be best for us. So I'm loving it a lot. We have the epilogue where we're going to wrap up, okay? We're wrapping up the story. Here are some biographies, which are just another way to really dive into some of the people during that time. The series, the Who Was series, that might be something that you could look up some of these. I'm sure they have like a Pocahontas and quite a few of these, I would guess. I don't know that for sure, but have a whole list, okay? And then it says, see page 139 in the appendix for ideas on how to present. So let's look at that really quick. All right, 139. So what they're going to do, this is, I think more for your older student, but you can modify it for your smaller students where they are going to do a little biography about these people. Now, you've got those younger students, do like what I said earlier, read a little bit more about these individual ones, and maybe they can do a verbal narration or something like that. Or if you have one that's old enough, they're ready to do a little report, here we go. So it shows you how to write a book report and to read it to the group. It goes through all of the steps, gives little tips on how to make it more interesting, create a movie poster, interview yourself by writing out questions. Lots of really cool ideas on how to do this biography. It says older students can research and make a presentation of major events, people, all sorts of different things. It says the internet is another rich source of information, and then talks about making a timeline with the dates, which I think is really, really neat. We have our School Nest history timeline book that we will start using this information to go into that. And then at the very, very end of that unit, we have the timeline, where this is kind of a quick, if you just want to put maybe these certain dates only into your timeline, you can. Otherwise, you can just look and see how the things are working along. So as I mentioned, all of the units are exactly the same. They're in that same format. You're going to get the recipes, you're going to get the games, you're going to get the book list, both the short and the chapter books for each unit. Now in the back, there's even more. So we have this appendix in the back of the book where we have vocabulary activities. How can you use those vocabulary words to like mean something, like bring it more to life? And here are some ideas for that. Then we have some extra activity sheets. We have these little fun crossword puzzles that are for each unit. We have more ideas for this, creating a book presentation. We have the presenting your research, the timeline activities, and then we have the activity materials. So one of the things that was in the first page is you can stitch some of the things. So here's a little example of how you could stitch out your name. Here's all the letters, a little house, however you wanted to do it. And that is in this part right here. So let's look back. That was page 14, it said. So a stitch sampler we saw here, using the pattern found on page 145 of the appendix, cross stitch a sampler and choose your own colors. So I am beyond thrilled that Common Sense Press sent this to me, because I think this is the perfect fit for what I was looking for American history. I wanted something that gave me options, but I didn't want something that was very strict. I wanted to be able to just do my thing, but not have to research everything and find all the activities. It's already here for me. So definitely, if you're interested in this, I will have a link to Common Sense Press down in the description, where it will take you directly to learning American history through literature. I think it's a shame that I haven't seen this before, because it would have saved myself a lot of work had I noticed this much sooner. But sometimes that's just the way it goes. But I think this is a real gem, and one that we are going to thoroughly enjoy this year. So if you enjoyed this flip through, I ask that you give me a thumbs up, consider hitting that subscribe button, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.